This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz. Very excited to be speaking with Ken Leung about industry. How are you, Ken?
I'm great. I'm great.
Awesome. I was listening back. We spoke, I guess it was right after season one ended, season two was filming. It was 3 years ago now, back before I feel like anybody knew about this show because it felt like it was under the radar for like the first 2 years. And now all of a sudden everybody knows about it, is talking about it, which is really
When
exciting.
was it? It was after season one, you're saying?
Yes, you mentioned you were filming
Because
season two. You didn't want to say too much.
okay. Because that might have been. I was going to say if it was after season one, that might have been like 5 years ago. Um, we
Yeah,
filmed we filmed season one in 2019 before COVID, and then it aired during COVID, and we yeah. So
you
yeah,
mentioned that COVID was going to play a part in season two, which it
yeah,
definitely
yeah, yeah.
did.
Right.
Um, but again, I just feel like people are finally discovering the show, and I'm not sure what took them so long because like it's been on HBO, it's got this great cast. Like I'm not sure, but is there something you think about season three that just made it to everybody for the first time?
I mean, there's so much to watch now. So we're lucky that we get found ever. But I do come across a lot of people who want to make it known that they've been watching us from the beginning, that they're very proud of it and they want that to be known. So I appreciate that there is a pretty sizable subset of fans who have been with us from the get-go. But what does it? I'm not sure. I think you might know more than I would about what makes people watch what. Um,
I mean, I'm a bad example a lot of ways because I get screeners, I have stuff I'm interested in, like I'm already tuned in, but I'm happy because again, I think it's a really interesting show. It certainly has been rough watching Eric, go through what he's been going through over the past couple of years, but there's something nice about watching other people suffer if, that not nothing that you have to go through. I don't know, but it's definitely
I
definitely
will
moving.
say this. You mentioning that makes me think of this in that every time from the beginning, anytime I feel like I've gotten a hold on who this character is. Like I feel like, okay, my feet are planted on the ground. Something changes and I'm off balance again. So the show manages, and maybe that's part of the appeal for viewers, where you're never quite balanced. You're always struggling to maintain balance. You're always a little thrown. Um, and that makes it a joy to play, and it makes it presumably fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I just think back to, when Eric came into the meeting that was supposed to be about Harper reporting his behavior, and it was like clear that he was important enough to the company that they couldn't let him go. And we're at a very different point now at the end of season three. And fortunately, I hope, being employed by Pierpoint is not a requirement to be on this show because we've followed enough characters who have gone to enough places. But that is a pretty severe shift just in his fortunes, which partially his own doing, partially his own ego, but also wildly out of his control at the same time.
Right.
So it's a real roller coaster.
Yeah. Yeah, it sure is.
And there's no dynamic more interesting to me than Harper and Eric because they've done so much together, yet they have every reason to hate each other to such a degree. And it's been great to see Myhala just in real life, appearing in all these other projects since then, and just her career really, really on the rise. How are you feeling about that Harper Eric dynamic right now?
I think it's really interesting that final phone call at the end of season three because it felt like a return to something familiar. Um, and at the same time, it was kind of a role reversal. And, I make the joke of, are you hiring? And it's a joke, but then we're going to learn that not soon after that call, yeah, I shouldn't give much away. I shouldn't give anything away. Anyway, I'll say that yes, they are a very interesting relationship where, we see flashes of how it started and what made the relationship kind of endure. Um, and that interestingly remains, that heart of that relationship remains through different iterations of power dynamics and whatnot. So it's really interesting relationship. I'm so proud of her. To speak of what you're saying, she's in all these things. She was just at the Met Gala last night, looking like the queen of the universe. um, and she's just so, for a young person, she's so composed, and or seemingly, who knows, inside she's probably has explosions going on, but she's very together. And it's just striking because I never was that at her age. So it's really beyond being proud of her. I'm very inspired by her poise. Um, and yeah, she's just, she's become a family friend. We live coincidentally not far from each other in life. Um, she gave my son she was getting rid of these musical instruments she had accumulated from her childhood. She gave them to my son. It's just very sweet. So yeah, I love her and super proud.
Well, on the note of family life, it has been very disarming and a little worrying to see Eric, who was always the responsible one, who was mean, but like always did made sure he was on the right track in terms of what he was doing in his life, just sort of spiraling out of control. We don't, his previously we had seen him with his wife, and now he's just doing a lot of very, very irresponsible things. And I'm sure that's interesting to play this character who is always presented as sort of invincible in a certain way to now be incredibly vulnerable and making some really bad life choices.
Yeah, it felt like the logical place to go. Um, that he had you have to he had to kind of go all the way, sort of, to see where that led him. And now it'll be interesting to see going into four, the since the result of that was such a catastrophe, of going all the way was such a catastrophe. What does one do to reverse course? If you can. Um, it's interesting that he has this everything he learned from Newman, his mentor, that we never meet, but we kind of intuit about. He's internalized, you know, weaponizing every little thing, secrets that people tell you, his best friend's illness, um, Harper's fraudulent college credentials, etc. Um, what happens when you've internalized all these tactics and this belief that the means justify, the ends justify any means. What happens when you internalize that, but then the outlet for it is taken away? And where do you put that? How does that live in you? So I think going into four, that'll be an interesting kind of starting place.
Four seasons is certainly quite impressive, especially for a show that, as I said, was pretty under the radar for a while. Do you
Yeah,
feel like, without talking about any story, plot points, do you feel like this could be it, or there's still a lot of story left to tell?
I think with the boys, they are liable to take it forever, as long as they're interest, as long as it excites them. I think their mind and their imagination kind of is. I don't see the ends of it. I mean, like I said, they're constantly surprising us with where they're taking our characters. We'll have a very brief conversation, and they'll take a seed of that and really, really fly with it. So I think as long as they are interested in this playing in this sandbox, um, will it'll continue.
Well, I had the chance to see you in a very different role in a film I saw at Sundance called Last Days, where
Yeah.
I feel like somebody who is very moral in a lot of ways, even though he does things he shouldn't, but cannot connect with the people around him. And I just think it's a
Yeah.
very, I'm curious, especially with, playing someone who is a real person and with the story where obviously some is invented because we don't really know what happened. What was it like getting to play this real character, but in the setting of this film?
I mean, it was magical. It's I felt that we were kind of looked after. Like you have this sense whenever you're telling that kind of a story, a real person's real story, you feel this you kind of responsibility to take care of the thing. And in our case, or for my feeling, I felt that that was true, but the reverse was true as well, that something was taking care of us and looking after us. And then little things would happen that would kind of confirm that. Um, and it was just magical in that, Sky is is I almost hesitate to say that he acted a role. He really he really opened a, a portal to something um, that made it possible for John to be here for a second um, in the context of what I guess we acknowledge or recognize as a movie. But I feel like it was kind of a much deeper experience than that as far as, where from where we stand, obviously. Um, so yeah, really special project. Um, it's funny to watch because it's broken up into these two tracks, and I obviously had nothing to do with the cops track. So to watch it together was really um, it was it was a it was an interesting experience to see the thing you're in when your perspective was like this.
On the note of watching stuff, what are you watching these days on TV? What's really impressed you lately?
Adolescence. Have you've seen Adolescence?
Yeah, I
Or
actually spoke to
yeah,
one of the cast members earlier today.
yeah.
Great
I
choice.
mean, I didn't see it. I saw it a few weeks ago now, but I mean, it makes an imprint that stays with you. Um, it's a remarkable, it's remarkable, um, and brings up a lot of, things, fears, paranoias, uh, as the dad of a young young person in this chaotic world. So yeah, that's left a mark.
Well, aside from whatever's happening next with Last Days and season 4 of Industry, do you have anything else coming up you can share?
Yeah, I did a thing. It's called Blow the Horn, um, and it's written and directed by Nacho Arenas, based on an Argentinian play. I don't know what the name of the play is, but it was really fun to do. It's group couples counseling. Three couples they get together. Um, that's all I'll say. And I really loved it because I rarely get to play that. I rarely get to investigate that type of relationship um, where where it's all about that. I mean, it's couples therapy, so we're getting into the nitty gritty of our relationships, and I love that. I never get to do that, so it was really really fun. I don't know where that's going or it was an independent film, so I presumably it'll um, do the indie film circuit festivals and whatnot. Um, yeah, so there's that.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to whatever comes next for Eric and company on industry, and appreciate the chance to check in with you again. And we don't need to wait 4 or 5 years, for the next time, but it's always a
Yeah,
pleasure.
good to see you, Abe.